Hello and welcome to New Old and Songs Untold. I'm your host Anna. I'm here with Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. So today we will be talking about kind of the rock revival band, The Strokes. I'm pretty excited. I really like The Strokes going into this, but should we hear some of the history of the band before we get into our top
Sure.
10?
The Strokes are an American rock band from Manhattan, New York, formed in 1998. The band is composed of singer Julian Casablancas, guitarist Nick, that's a last name I'm just not going to pronounce, and Albert Hammond, and bassist Nikolai These are very Italian names that I just can't pronounce.
And we know that your strong suit is
Yes.
pronouncing words.
Especially names. They're kind of like one of the more like prominent bands of like the garage rock / like post-punk revival band in aiding in the resurrection of indie rock in New York City. After the release of their EP The Modern Age in January 2001, a bidding war ensued among major labels in order to sign the band. Eventually, RCA Records signed them and released their debut solo album, Is This It, later that year. It earned them international commercial success and critical acclaim, appearing on several year-ending all-time album lists. It was followed by Room on Fire in October 2003 and First Impressions of Earth in January 2006. Both received similar commercial success. They then entered a hiatus for several years. Towards the end of their original record deal with RCA, the Strokes released Angles in March 2011 and Come Down Machine in March 2013. Both received lukewarm response from critics. They released their first collection of material after departure from RCA, the Future Present Past EP, in June 2016. Through the lead singer's independent Cult Records label. Despite the studio projects, the 2010s were a relatively quiet period for the Strokes. While the band was in studio together through the decade, they performed live relatively infrequent and directed most of the media attention to individual products. By the end of the decade, the Strokes began to work with Rick Rubin on a new album. In April 2020, the Strokes released the first studio album in 7 years, The New Abnormal, through Cult and RCA. Critics generally consider the album a return to form, as in 2020 the band has sold 5 million albums worldwide.
Yeah. They're very influential in the kind of New York rock scene at the time, and they're kind of quoted to say like they saved rock music. There's a lot of people who have been like influenced by this and like cite them as influences. So they're kind of one of those bands like the Velvet Underground and the Ramones, where like they kind of spurred all these other bands and kind of influenced them to get together as well. So I think their sound was very like unique and groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, for sure. So what you think going into the episode?
Yeah, so I had kind of a conception of their albums that, like, their first album was really good, and I had heard their first album a lot, like, I listened to that one a lot, but none of their other albums, and I heard that the other ones were, like, not so great, so I was interested to see kind of what I actually thought about them, going through them, but what were your thoughts going in?
I didn't really know too much about them. I knew one of their songs. I knew, like, after listening, I think I've heard of a few, but
Yeah.
I only could name one song by them. So I was definitely interested to see how because knowing that one song, I was like, what their sound was, and I thought maybe I'd end up enjoying them, so I was interested to go through it.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
shall we jump into this top 10?
Sure, yeah. What's the Spotify?
All right, Spotify. Number 10 is Call It Fate, Call It Karma with 44 million plays off of Come Down Machine.
All right.
What is your number 10?
My number 10 is Under the Cover of Darkness from Angles. It was one of the only songs from like not the first and their newest album that I actually liked. Most of my list is literally just their debut and then their like most recent album.
Same.
But yeah, so this one's from Angles, and Angles is the first Strokes album to be written by all 5 band members, which I thought was kind of interesting. There's kind of a quote from the guitarist saying, because that was a song where we literally all contributed to the writing, it made me think, wow, maybe we'll do our best work when we put all our ideas together, which I thought was interesting because I think Julian Casablancas wrote most of the music before this.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, it has a very different sound, this album and then this song. To me it sounds like really dark and strange, and it kind of it almost sounds like a Doors song to me, but it's the meaning of it is supposedly, according to Julian Casablancas, is about someone who works in the military and has a girlfriend, and like is about like leaving someone that you love behind. But it just has a really sharp guitar riff and a really catchy sound. But that is Under the Cover of Darkness for my number 10.
All right, my number 10 is Selfless, off of the new Abnormal. That's their newest album.
Hold on. I just said the wrong thing for the wrong song. Wait, is that right? Sorry, I cut because I think I mixed up which song this was. Yeah, I did. Maybe we'll just do that again. Yeah, I'll just cut because that was the wrong song.
Nice.
I mean, some of it was right, but some of it was incorrect. I was thinking of a different song. Okay, sorry, I'll do that again. Take 2. Alright, my number 10 is Under the Cover of Darkness. And so this is one of the only songs that I liked from kind of their in-between albums, from their debut to their most recent, because that's most of my list is those 2 albums. But this one's off of Angles, and apparently this was the first album where the Strokes, the album was written by all 5 band members. And they kind of thought that this song was a lot better because they all contributed to it, which I thought was kind of interesting because up until then I think Julian Casablancas was like the only writer of the songs. But it's about someone who works in the military and has a girlfriend, and it's kind of about like having to leave a loved one behind. And I just like the sound of the guitar in this one. It has like a sharper guitar riff than some of their other stuff, and it's really catchy. It's actually like the sound of it is really catchy.
Yeah,
but,
I enjoyed that song quite a bit. It was on my honorable mentions, but it was a really good song.
But that is Under the Cover of Darkness for my number 10.
All right, my number 10 is Selfless, off of the new Abnormal, 2020, their newest album. It's centered around love and relationships, with Julian beckoning to like a significant other that he wants them to come live life with him and not missing out on a moment that they don't have to, kind of. I really like kind of how the track features a very instrumental with heavy guitar and bass throughout it. It's just a very interesting song too. I think a lot of their sound to me is what I necessarily like. They sound like very similar in song to song. Especially I think off their first and last album are very similar sound wise.
Yeah, and their songs all kind of like, I don't know, they're very cohesive in where like they all kind of sound the same, but like they're still very different. Yeah. It's really weird.
It is weird.
Like, unless you're really paying attention, it's just like, well, did I just listen to that song?
Yeah, so instead of me saying that I liked how it sounded, because I just like their kind of style, so it's kind of like I'm not, but that's
that kind of like underground garage sound.
So that was my number 10, Selfless.
All right. On to number 9.
Number 9 on the Spotify list is This It, with 49 million plays off of Is This It.
All right.
What is your number 9?
My number 9 is Reptilia off of Room on Fire. So this kind of, the name of the song refers to like the reptilian brain, which is the central part of your brain that handles basic emotions. And I kind of only put this on my list because of like familiarity. Like I've definitely heard this song. I think it was on like Guitar Hero or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I've definitely like from when I was younger remember hearing this song. But you know the guitar riff is really incredible. I feel like their riffs are all very like memorable in their own ways. And yeah, I felt like this song could have easily been on their debut, Is This It? But like, because it fits kind of it's on a very different album than that one.
It is.
But I feel like it fits that like, original sound that they had. So yeah, that's Reptilia for my number 9.
All right, my number 9 is The Modern Age off of Is This It? Their debut album. The track is a like observation of life's kind of ideals in modern times, and it kind of I've got a quote here. It's kind of funny. It stomps like a renegade elephant with bashed kick drums and tromboniant guitar riffs. Which I was like, I thought that was a wild way to describe the song. I think like he also Casablanca. He's very, I think, passionate in the song, singing wise, like his voice. It's definitely this whole album. I love this whole album. So this is mostly my list is this album. So this is my number 9, The Modern Age.
All right.
On to number 8.
Number 8.
Which for the list is 1251 off of Room on Fire with 50 million plays.
All right.
What is your number 8?
My number 8 is Call It Fate, Call It Karma from the Come Down Machine. I was not a fan of this album. It didn't really do it for me, but this song was kind of interesting. So apparently Julian Casablancas actually recorded his parts together with the rest of his band, but usually I think the album previous to this he would like remove himself from the rest of the band and do all his recording alone, which is interesting because in their kind of earlier years they would do a lot of just live recording where they're all together and trying to get that like live organic sound, but then they kind of tried to redo that type of recording style for this song, and it sounds very different, more experimental than their other stuff. To me it sounds almost like an electronic Doors song. Like that's the only way I could describe it, because it's really dark but also like electronic and poppy at the same time. Like it's a weird song, but I think that's why I liked it, because a lot of their stuff, it sounds very similar like we said, and this one actually stood out to me. But that's Call It Fate, Call It Karma for my number 8.
All right, my number 8 is Bad Decisions off of the New Abnormal, their newest album. The song's main melody is actually like a reimagining from Billy Idol's hit "Dancing with Myself."
Yeah.
Which is it's actually, you could tell. Like I didn't realize it at first. I don't think
it's not that obvious.
No, until I read about it. Yeah, and this song is kind of about Julian sings a self-aware commentary on the band's interaction with its fans and the music scene, as implied by the music video's point that a lot of the fans want the sounds that are kind of the same as their debut album.
Yeah.
And making bad decisions in context song implies that the band making this decision stray away from the sound, which doesn't sit well with their fans. So I thought it was an interesting kind of song, because I think like bands struggle with this. Every band in the history of bands struggle with
fans always, like when they love an album, they always just want the band to make another one of those albums. And I think that's especially true with the Strokes, because their first album was so popular and so critically acclaimed.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of speaks towards the like ideal like the fans when they find an artist, and that's when they first hear them and they're a brand new artist and they think like no one else has ever heard this band before, and they're like, oh, this is the best, this is the best that they're gonna get. Then they the band can change sound wise or whatever have you, and then fans tend to can be upset with different sounds and whatnot, which I just find it is interesting that they kind of did self look at that and kind of decisions they made to go a different direction. Maybe not for the best or worst for commercial wise, but
Yeah.
that was my number 8, Bad Decisions.
Yeah, I like that song. That was one of the newer ones that I was like surprised. I was like, oh, like this is actually pretty good. I like this.
All right, what are we on? 7 for the Spotify is Hard to Explain with 64 million plays off of Is This It?
All right.
What was your number 7?
My number 7 is Alone Together off of Is This It? The first on my list from that album, but definitely not the last. I honestly could have just put that whole album on my list because I absolutely love that album. But this song kind of details a tumultuous relationship that just kind of isn't working. And the couple keeps trying, but hurts each other in the process, and it kind of becomes clear they're not right for each other. And there was, apparently when they were making this, there was, just like the idea of a song called Alone Together, and then they recorded it in 3 different ways, so 3 different like production styles with different methods and like approaches to each one, which I thought was a really interesting way to kind of approach that. So one they did it like all live, and then one they did it with like just the drum kit, and then one they did like a drum machine. And I think it has like a really cool, more like straightforward rock song that like drives the song, because like some other stuff is more like indie rock, but this one sounded more like it has more rock undertones to me. But that's Alone Together for my number 7.
All right, my number 7 is Barely Legal off of Is This It? Their debut album. The song is a very weird song, I'd say, lyrically wise. So it's about kind of like what I found for the best explanation what it was about. That it's about a girl who just turned 18 and is extremely naive in everything she does. The narrator is talking about her and how he doesn't see anything in her, but is obsessed with her for some reason. And lyrically, it's a weird song, but some people thought maybe he was hinting at he had like a struggle with his father, so he thought he was making fun of his father for something that he did.
Oh yeah.
So
there's a lot of songs where like there's possible interpretations where it's about his father
because they had a really strenuous relationship.
I
suppose.
I don't know.
I love the sound of this song. That's why I put it on my list.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little more upbeat than I think the rest of this album is. It just stuck out to me for some reason. I just remember it sticking out to me, and I enjoyed the song quite a bit. I don't know if you remember listening to this one at all.
Yeah, I think I know that one.
But so that was my number 7, Barely Legal.
All right,
on to number 6 for Spotify is Machu Picchu, 74 million plays off of Angles.
All right.
I almost typed that Angels like 80 times on here.
That's a common mistake.
I'm not surprised. I'm surprised I haven't said Angels yet when I'm reading it.
Oh, it's gonna happen. You just wait.
All right, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is Bad Decisions. So from the new Abnormal. You kind of just talked about this one, but it has, to me, it has that like classic sound, and that's like what's most appealing about it. But it also has this like updated like energy and feel to it, where like they shed some of their like, I don't know if they became more mature or if they're just like their sound developed more, but it definitely is distinct from their first album. And I think that's what the kind of combination of those two elements is what makes it so good. And this one was on the radio a lot, so I just heard it a lot. But yeah, that was a really good song. And this is another one where, some people think it's about Julian's problematic relationship with his father.
Yeah. There's multiple meanings for, I think, a lot of songs. I think people interpret the lyrics like what they are, or like some people look at like hear stories or interviews. And
yes, for sure. But that is Bad Decisions for my number 6.
My number 6 is Trying Your Luck off of Is This It? Their debut album. On this track, he's discussing his kind of romantic ventures with a woman he has strong feelings for, and how he is willing to leave it all on the line to try and get her. This is just another one off the first album. I like the first album, so obviously I didn't make all.
Like the first album.
I didn't make all 10 it, but this is just another one. I think the album, like you kind of said, sounds a lot the same but a lot different at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
I feel
interesting
like
going
unless you
through.
spend a lot of time with it, then it sounds all the same. But once you like really dive into it, there's so much like intricacies in it that make it more complex than just like the same song for every single song on the album.
So yeah, that was my number 6, Trying Your Luck.
All right, on to
All right,
number 5.
On to number 5 is one you had on your list, Under the Cover of Darkness, with 125 million plays off of Angles.
Nice.
What is your number 5?
My number 5 is Someday off of Is This It?
I feel like our top 5s are going to be semi-similar.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah,
know.
I got a lot of Is This It?
So do I.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, Someday. This song is about kind of the childhood realization that as you get older, you and your friends are likely to drift apart. And this one peaked at number 17 on the U.S. Alternative Songs chart, and then 27 on the U.K. Singles chart. But to me, this one sounds a little more like pop influenced and like brighter in its sound than some of their other songs on this. And
it kind of has like a relaxing, fast pace to it.
yeah, it's strange. It's very it's catchy. It has like a really nice hook to it with like the someday part. I think that's the chorus. Some of these songs, like I don't even know what the structures of the songs.
I know,
I
know.
He sings it in a way that like it all sounds in almost the same tone. So it's hard to distinguish, like, all right, is this like the chorus?
Except for like a couple, except there's a couple distinct ones. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he has a very interesting vocal kind of style, which I do enjoy.
This song, Someday you're talking about would be an absolute smash, on like a hit. Now, if it came out today, in like today's scene for like, especially like. I think I'll talk about more after we're done with the list, but like especially in like indie music today.
Yeah.
I think like this album in general would do
numbers
this
today. Album is so foundational for so much indie music that you can just hear elements of today in it, because all these bands that are making music now are
influenced there was a lot that I heard of, like Arcade Fire. For example, I know we did them.
Or the Arctic
Monkeys and
Franz Ferdinand, like all those like early kind of indie stuff. But yeah, so that's Someday for my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is hard to explain off of Is This It? You didn't have that yet, did you?
Nope.
No. Okay. We've had so many off that album.
I know. I honestly I forget what's even on my list half the time.
This is just kind of how I say it. I love the sound of this album, so this is just another example of a great song off it. Rolling Stones placed the song at number 59 of its list of 100 best songs of the 2000s. So I think this was like probably one of their most like critically acclaimed songs off the album when it came out.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Because it's good. It's not my favorite, which will obviously my favorite is yet to come. But it's very good though. It's a great song. It's very much in vein, I think, of the rest of this album. So that's my number 5. Hard to explain.
All right, on to number 4.
Number 4 is You Only Live Once. 161 million plays. First impressions of Earth. I did not like this song.
No.
I didn't like that album.
They really wanted to make a YOLO song.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's what they did. All right.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 is The Adults Are Talking from the new Abnormal. So this track takes on kind of a rebellious tone against the higher-ups in the world. And it features mostly like a bass-centric instrumentals with really like peppy snare drums. And on this one, Julian sings more of in like a muffled tone than usual. And it's kind of like he's almost emulating that. He's like sneaking up on those he wants to rebel against and elevating his vocal volume over the track's like chord progression. It's an interesting vocal delivery on this one. And I just love the fast-paced melody that the guitar has, and then the guitar and like the vocals kind of match, which I always love that. That always sounds really cool. But yeah, another one of their new ones that I actually really enjoyed. But that's The Adults Are Talking for my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Sonoma. So no. Soma? Is it Soma?
You tried.
I wanted to say
I could
Sonoma
see the
so bad.
effort.
It's Soma. It's Soma though.
Yeah, it's
Soma,
Soma.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Soma off of their first album. Shocker.
Yeah.
So Soma was the name of an imaginary ideal pleasure drug in the novel Brave New World.
I love that book. That's one of my favorite books ever.
I've actually never read it.
Oh, it's so good. It's like 1984, but like on steroids.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the song is, I think this is the most unique song off the first album, sound-wise.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's not like, it's very different actually if you just look at it, and that's why I loved it so much, I think.
Yeah, this is actually my number 3, so.
Oh, perfect deal. Well, if you just want to get into, you can just talk about it, because I don't have too much besides how much I loved how different it was, so.
Yeah, so, they apparently took a really long time to make this song because they kind of like went track by track. So like each part they kind of sculpted.
Gotcha.
So they took a really long time making the drums specifically sound really good. And they apparently they played it live, but then they processed it so much they made it almost sound like a drum machine. And they all of like the compressors and all the different like production stuff you can do in a song, they took a long time to kind of mess around on this. And quoting, they messed around until something real sounded like something fake, which is kind of so emblematic of like the the book that they're kind of, because it's all about kind of the fakeness in reality. And yeah, it has such a great drum beat throughout, and his vocals sound like really honest but like disconnected at the same time, which I thought was really cool. It's almost like an eerie kind of vocals to me. But yeah, that's Soma for my number 3.
And that was my number 4, so
yeah,
we'll go to the Spotify.
I love confusing the order.
I know,
of
I
our
love
list.
confusing the order. So we'll go to the Spotify number 3.
All right.
Which is Someday, which you just had 206 million plays off of Is This It? And ironically, this is also my number 3.
All right.
So that's Someday, as I just said. You kind of already talked about it. I kind of interjected with my thoughts of this song. Yeah, I really like. This is one of the songs I knew but didn't know the name of.
Yeah.
Like I heard of it but did not know the name of. So that was my number 3, Someday.
All right.
All right, we're on to top 2 now.
Top 2. What is 2 for the Spotify list?
Well, I'm also just gonna go right away since I have the same number 2 as the Spotify list.
Yeah.
So it's Reptilia for number 2 for me and Spotify list with 266 million plays. That's off of Room on Fire. You already talked about quite a bit of the song, which it's funny because the song was on Guitar Hero, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was.
It does have such a great like guitar and classic, like this was the song I knew from the Strokes.
Yeah.
And it's just like I tried to listen to it like objectively when I went through again, and I really I loved the song. I absolutely loved it. I loved the guitar to it. I love his tone throughout, like the kind of like softer urgency he puts into his voice. And it's a little higher pitch too, which I do quite enjoy, kind of like the winding through the song but also following like the guitar through it and the music in the background, like his voice kind of just, I think it's a really well put together song.
Yeah, and I feel like the guitar on a lot of their songs, it's so catchy. Like they make like these really nice hooks just on the guitar riff that make them so memorable to me. Because like I think about that song, I instantly think about the guitar. So yeah, it's a great song.
That was my number 2, Reptilia. What is your number 2?
My number 2, I'm assuming is your number 1, but
yeah.
My number 2 is Last Night off of Is This It? So basically it's kind of about like a guy who leaves his girlfriend after she tells him she feels upset because he doesn't like care about her. It's kind of complicated though, because there's a lot of different things going on lyrically in the song, which I think is why I like it. It's one of the more like interesting, it's very straightforward but also complex in like the meaning of the lyrics. And this song is number 478 on the list of 500 greatest songs of all time by Rolling Stones.
Which is interesting because, like I said before, Hard to Explain, I think when it came out, had the more
Yeah, I think Last
critical
Night.
acclaim, so
Yeah, I
it
think
might
Last
have
Night is
aged better.
pretty popular. I think it's one of their more popular songs. But
Those lists are always confusing anyways. So.
they are, yeah. What do they even mean? I don't know. But yeah, so this song, I've heard this song so many times. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But it has such a again an iconic guitar riff, and it kind of perfectly displays Julian Casablancas' really like raspy, almost monotone vocals that still have a lot of emotion. But yeah, that's Last Night for my number 2.
All right, before I talk about said song, we will do our honorable mentions.
Yes.
So mine are this.
Sorry, my honorable mentions are all from the same album.
Are they?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Mine, I have Is This It? 1251, Under Cover of Darkness, The Adults Are Talking, and Eternal Summer.
My honorable mentions are The Modern Age, Barely Legal, Hard to Explain, Trying Your Luck, and Take It or Leave It.
Just the rest of that album.
Yes.
Since we already know what my number one's going to be, we'll actually do the Spotify first.
Yeah, we'll do the Spotify.
Because, as you could imagine, the Spotify's number one is Last Night, 332 million plays. That's also my number one. And you said quite a bit what I was going to say about the song. I love, like, I think, like, it shows off his vocals, I think, because it's like like a lot of their songs, especially this one with the guitar, it kind of makes it like it's rushed. It feels rushed, but then like the tone of it's very relaxing. It's a weird combo that works very well. And then his like the chord, like when he cuts back into say Last Night, it just like cuts through the track, and it's just like
that's one of the best parts of the song. It's like, especially in the beginning, like when it first comes in and he just like holds out that note of Last Night. It sounds so good.
So the opening guitar riff is from American Girl by Tom Petty.
Yeah, and I don't remember if it was this one or the other song,
this is the one
the
he
Billy
got
Idol
like
song that they basically said like, yeah, we stole that. We didn't know if we should put it on the album, but like we just directly took influence from that exact track.
They did, and they ended up settling. It was like they gave like some royalties to Tom Petty, but then Tom Petty liked it so much they opened for Tom Petty.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is hilarious. Ironically enough, we already did Tom Petty last year, and this was my favorite Tom Petty song, so I was like, that's kind of funny. I just like that opening riff.
Yeah, that's your riff.
It is an iconic opening riff, though. I honestly didn't even notice until I read it.
I could definitely hear that, yeah. I mean, it's obviously in a different style, but yeah, the notes are pretty similar.
So yeah, that is, I think, also I guess one last thing about the song. I think this song kind of perfectly shows off what the Strokes can do musically and vocally. I think best than, obviously it's my favorite song by them, but
yeah.
I think it's like the perfect example of like what you're going to get with the Strokes. I think the best of the Strokes is this song. So that is my number one, Last Night.
All right.
What is your number one?
I don't
know what it's going to be, actually.
My number one is This It, off of Is This It. So it's the first song on the album. I absolutely love this song. I think it's like the coolest, most like unique song, especially to start out the album. It just completely sets the tone for the album. Julian Casablancas explained the song's title in an interview, saying how it came about is that we had the song and it was done without a chorus, so I was like, I'll wing it, I'll figure something out. And one day I sang that over the chorus and the song was done. So he basically just improvised, which impressive.
Classic.
You know,
Classic.
I love when musicians can just, randomly come up with things off the top of their head that are amazing. But apparently he said he wanted his voice to sound like, quote, like your favorite blue jeans, not totally destroyed but worn in and comfortable. And I was like, that is the strangest way to describe a voice or like singing, but that it completely makes sense to me. Like it totally fits with this song. And it's, it's kind of just about the feeling of like dissatisfaction, which I think is like, it has those like youthful tones and with the time it came out, especially with like the music scene at that time, I feel like this kind of represents a movement towards something else. Lyrically, in like the meaning and also the style of it. But yeah, I love this song. Such a good song. And that is This It for my number 1.
All right, you want to run down your list one more time for the audience?
Let's do it. My number 10 is Under the Cover of Darkness. My number 9 is Reptilia. My number 8 is Call It Fate, Call It Karma. My number 7 is Alone Together. My number 6 is Bad Decision. Is it Bad Decisions or Bad Decision?
I have the S at the end. So.
Okay, Bad Decisions. I think I just did a typo.
I could also do a typo.
Who knows? The world may never know. 5 is Someday. 4 is The Adults Are Talking. 3 is Soma. 2 was Last Night. And 1 is This It.
All right, 10 for me was Selfless. Number 9 was The Modern Age. Number 8 was Bad Decisions. Number 7 was Barely Legal. Number 6 was Trying Your Luck. Number 5 was Hard to Explain. Number 4 was Soma. Number 3 was Someday. Number 2 is Reptilia. And number 1 was Last Night.
All right. Do you have any closing thoughts on the Strokes?
I liked their songs quite a bit more than I thought. I think, especially when I went through to maybe not even more than I thought. I just haven't listened to them. Yeah. I think I picked out, I had to go through and whittle my list down from 45 songs or something like that out of their 5 albums, which is pretty, I think, rare for a 5-album artist for me. I'm not going to find
because they don't have a lot of, their discography is not that big.
No, it's
relatively,
only, it's 5 albums, I think. Yeah. So
or 6 albums.
Or 5 or 6, something like that. I don't remember. But, and you definitely hear, I think, we talked about a little bit, a lot of influences nowadays of indie music that come from the early albums of the Strokes. And I did find it interesting that, how different they're after their first, I would say their second album isn't, crazy different, but, the third one was... And I think that was the most interesting. And then them to find a 2020 album that I absolutely love that album as well. Yeah. It's not as good as the first one, but it's very good.
It's reminiscent of that kind of style. But like I said, I think it's updated to the point where their musical taste and style changed a little bit, enough to make it fresh, but not too much where core fans are angry about it.
Yep.
But yeah, I would agree, and I think just their impact on music, and especially indie and alternative music, if you like that kind of music, I feel like you have to listen to this, at least their first album. Yep. Because it's just incredible listening to it, and the time it came out, and just you can definitely hear all the ways it influenced current music, which I think is really amazing. And they're just so unique. I feel nowadays they don't seem as unique as they actually are. No, but
back in 2001, that's crazy. That kind of music, they invented that kind of music essentially.
Yeah, so. And I think, they stand out even today in their very own, their own style, and kind of that whole scene of the New York rock music. They basically started it. So it's cool listening to them, and it's cool listening to other bands around that time, but I think they definitely stand out completely on their own as a really fundamental indie band. But yeah. Is there anything else you have to say?
No, that's all I got for this episode.
All right. Well, that was our episode on the Strokes. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Songs Untold. The link will be in the description. You can follow us on YouTube as well, and subscribe, and like, and comment, and all that stuff that you're supposed to do.
It helps us out greatly.
Yes, yep. If you want to listen to any of these songs that we talked about, or songs from previous podcasts, you can find that at the New Olden Songs Untold podcast playlist on Spotify. And next week, I guess.
Well, it's not really next week. We can just spoil it. There's going to be 2 episodes released back to back. So
yeah. So if you're listening to this soon after or already, there's going to be
another episode up.
Yes, which will be a theme top 10 of top 10 Disney songs.
So you guys get to see, if you're watching on YouTube, you guys get to see us back to back episodes in the same clothes.
So crazy. Never been done before. But that's it for this episode, and thank you for listening. Have a nice week.